Hello everyone, Oregon Moto John here. I've had good luck with these blowholes, and I'm going to install this blowhole on this RS-1. It's running stock turbo clutches, and so it's just a matter of removing this clamp right here, pulling this off, putting this clamp on here, and then this metal end will go in this tube. Just a matter of kind of using a heat gun. So I'm going to remove this here and here. Before I remove this hose, I want this up at the top, this wire up at the top that's going to go to the taillight circuit. Just will plug in at the back of the taillight on the RS-1, so that's what powers it. So it keys on with the ignition. So I'll just be removing this clamp. This clamp, I'm going to mark this now because I want my how that's on the machine. I want that wire on the blowhole to come off about right here. Sometimes it's nice to mark that before it's off, so I don't have to try to figure that out once it's off. So I'm going to have that wire coming off the blowhole about there, kind of on the top. Okay, let's just remove both clamps, pull this off, heat this up, and we'll get the blowhole in there. I did have to wiggle this back and forth quite a bit to get this off of this, so it doesn't come off easy after you loosen that up. You're not doing anything wrong. Just take your time, wiggle this back and forth, and eventually it'll break loose and slide off. Now we'll remove this clamp and pull this off. So every one of these that I've bought, it's kind of the same thing, whether it's for a turbo, an XP1000, or the RS-1. When you first put this up to this, they seem to be roughly the same diameter, and you'll think this is never going in there. I've even, the first one I ever bought, I thought, oh, they sent me the wrong one, and I even called them to double check, and nope, it's the right one. So here's a few tips to make it a lot easier. You take a heat gun, you heat this rubber as hot as you think you can get it, and still grab onto it without burning yourself. All the way around, keep heating it. I'll lube this up. Actually, rubbing alcohol is kind of a good thing. It evaporates, so I'll spray rubbing alcohol on here, rubbing alcohol in here while this is hot, and I'll slide it together. Now, I have had times where I was struggling even more, so I have used furniture polish. It's slippery, and eventually it just kind of largely evaporates. Silicone. You could also use a spray silicone. So I'm going to finagle around with a few different things, but I have never had it where I thought it was super easy to slide in, but I wouldn't say it's awfully hard. But it's cold here today, and without a heat gun, I don't think I'd ever get that on there. So we got to heat that up first. Don't melt it, but get it warm. So here I am heating this up with a heat gun. Don't get too close, but just keep moving around that. Get that nice and warm so it gets nice and flexible and expands a little bit. Now I'm going to put some lemon pledge around this edge. Could use rubbing alcohol too to make that slippery. And some on the inside of this edge. But nice and slippery because those two need to go together. My first attempt failed, so I'm going to heat this up a little bit more, and I'm going to try again. Okay, here's a good tip. I heated this, sprayed the inside of this rubber vent with rubbing alcohol, and then put this, after heating it, and then put this fan on the floor with the silver side up, and then I was able to push this down over it. There was one lip that was getting a little stuck, so I used a plastic trim tool to get the end, put it under here to get that last little lip on, and that was the secret. Then it went right on. But you definitely need to heat this up, and I just have some spray rubbing alcohol in a bottle that I kind of sprayed around the inside of each lip. That really helped. Now it's just a matter of slipping this back on the razor and hooking up this to the taillight plug-in at the back of the machine, and then zip tying the wires. Really easy. The hardest part is just getting this on there, and then we need to re-secure this clamp down here. So we're just going to take this clamp and put it in the right area. And notice that I did end up with the this wire up where I had it indexed here, so it's going to be on the right position on the machine where it's out of the way. So here it is with that wire up, the clamp installed. Now this clamp is just going to be put on the machine. Likewise, spraying this outlet and the one over here with rubbing alcohol, it'll evaporate, so you don't have to worry about it. does help get this on. So let's just squirt that down, and that'll help getting those hoses on there with less muscle. Of course, loosen this clamp up on the end before you try to slip this on, and you could even squirt some rubbing alcohol lightly around there. With the rubbing alcohol sprayed on there, that was super easy. This just slipped right on here, that slipped right on there. Notice this has a little index mark, so make sure you get that right. You can see it right there. And then just tighten up the clamps here, and then tighten up the clamp there. Then you just have to run this to the taillight circuit. It really is that easy. I just tightened down this clamp, and now I'm going to tighten down this clamp. Make sure this is seated all the way against the housing as you tighten that down. There it is. Both clamps are on. This clamp's snug. This clamp's snug. Everything's ready to go. I'm just going to run this up to the taillight, up in an efficient pattern where it's out of the way, up to the where it plugs in behind the taillight there. I think the best way to route this, at least what I'm seeing here, is to come up under this, up on top here, go under here, and then follow this tube and there along to the taillight, which is kind of about more towards the right side of the machine over there. So I fed the blowhole wire harness, or wire, up underneath here, came out on the other side of that tube, and now I'm going to kind of come along and behind the taillight here, kind of along with these wires. There's some other wires that I'll zip tie to, and then you can kind of see the taillight back up in there. That's what we're going to unplug and plug into. And with this harness, it says, attention, plug connector directly into taillight. So what they mean is this connector is going to go directly into the factory taillight, and then the one that comes out of the taillight will piggyback into this. That's simple. So I'm going to finish kind of routing this along here with this wiring harness. There's a nice natural place to follow up there, and then I'll break out to the taillight right there. So here we have this wire plug-in, fed to the right side of the RS-1. Okay, and then that connector is, it's hard to see. It's right back up in there. So I'm going to unplug that and plug this in, and then piggyback onto this. It doesn't hurt to use some dielectric grease in here, up in here and around this to help it seal. I'll also use some dielectric grease in here since these razors have been known to go off-road where it's wet. I've done these plugins enough. I know I don't have to look at them, but basically you just displace this tab up lightly with your finger and you wiggle it and this will pull off. So that's what I just did. You can do that one-handed pretty easily by grabbing in there, lifting this up as you're wiggling, and it'll pull right off. So you can see the factory connector plugs in here. And now, just as the instructions show, we're going to plug this into the taillight with this up, just like it came off the old one. I'm going to put some dielectric grease on this before I plug it in. Okay, we got that plugged in behind the taillight on this backside. And now it's just a matter of taking all these connectors, and there's lots of nice places to zip tie these up and out of the way and away from anything hot. So that's just a matter of using some zip ties. Okay, this just is a little wrap up here. Shows you how nicely these wires behind the taillight, they tuck up here so nice and neat. There they are going to the taillight assembly. They come down, they can neatly zip tie and follow along this wiring harness here that's tucked up there. Really nice. You can just zip tie them right there. And then you can come along that frame, come under on the top side of this, come under the tube, and then come out to the blowhole. And that's what it looks like when it's all said and done. It says blowhole hot air eliminator, and it really does work. I've had great success with these. People say they don't run well when you're running, you know, high temperatures and you don't need them. I've found for moderate riding, they work great. I don't have a Razorback temp gauge in this, but I do all my other razors, and every one, it seems to lower general temps anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees. That's worth it to me, and more in many cases. But if you're running flat out, the secondary clutch spinning seems to move quite a bit of air, and you know, I don't know, it may not be necessary, but when you're running anything but wide open or at a fairly high RPM, I feel like these do move air, and that my temp gauge did confirm that, you know, temperatures are lower with the blowhole. So that's what I do, and you don't have to do it. It's just kind of one of those extra little tips. I found it helpful. Installing a blowhole is really easy. I think in total, I don't know, maybe I got 30 minutes on this, but I have done it before. One of the things that took the most time was almost just zip tying my wires. Other than getting this hose onto that and onto the fan. Putting the fan on the garage floor, heating this hose up was the way to do it. I tried a few different things, and that was when I had success. So there you have it. Hope this is helpful.